Hello and welcome to From Health to Harmony Global Retreat. I'm your host, Sam Kovalyev, and I hope you've been enjoying the series so far. Get the tools you need for your own holistic self-care today by getting our VIP charity package, which will unlock full lifetime access to all of these recordings and bonuses. All proceeds of the VIP charity package go to 501c3 nonprofit Haven for Humanity. Please see the link in your email for more information. Today we're joined by Lissa Marris of the very inspirational Raw Food Romance social media channels. Thank you for being with us today, Lissa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Oh, thanks. So I wanted to talk to you today about self-care, and it's a term that's really tossed around rather loosely nowadays. Everyone seems to have a different meaning for it. So I wanted to talk to you about what your lifestyle was like growing up, and how did you really get from there to where you are now in terms of your understanding of what is healthy and what is good for you?
So that's a big question. Most of my life, I grew up feeling that self-care was linked with pleasure in the form of food for me. Like when I would say ride a bike, scrape my knee, my mom would buy me ice cream. Or if I was having a bad day at work, I'd come home and say, oh, I just need to relax and enjoy this pizza or get this takeout. And just that would be kind of my self-care back in the day. But I didn't realize that that was actually doing so much more damage than actually just relaxing, because even though I had the mindset around the food as I was caring for myself, the thought or the idea of caring for myself didn't change the food, the state of the food, right? It was just in my mind, kind of like how prayer is. Like if we pray over our food, it doesn't make a bag of Doritos healthy just by praying over your food. It releases our guilt that it's bad. So I grew up learning that food was a form of pleasure, a form of self-care. And of course, I knew the whole, we take baths and take naps and go for walks in nature and stuff like that. But it just never, it wasn't like real self-care, because I wasn't getting the dopamine hit from a high-fat junky meal or a treat. Because like you had mentioned, like growing up, that's what I was conditioned to believe. And had I not grown up with that conditioning, I might feel differently around food. So in 2014, after 10 years of trying constantly to follow a raw vegan diet, finally decided to go vegan in 2014 after a decade of really trying hard to follow a raw vegan diet. I made that commitment to be vegan and therefore also went raw. But I was always doing raw a little wrong because I wasn't eating enough and I was eating too high fat. And I was still trying to force those same old self-care beliefs into a raw diet, like cheat days and comfort foods and all of that stuff, not realizing that it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So I had to release that. And when I started to eat whole, healthy, hydrating raw foods, I found this beautiful self-care within that act. So I wasn't looking for those external sources to bring up that self-care or to give myself self-care. It was in the act of eating the healthy food that I finally was able to really realize what true self-care really was taking care of my body. And then when I would go out and do like classic things like go for a walk in nature, take a nice bath or what have you, I could enjoy it fully because I didn't have digestive issues or all of my skin covered in acne. And I just felt comfortable in my body, so I could therefore enjoy those acts of self-care a lot more. So it has changed my life dramatically. It's two very different ways of looking at self-care for me.
Beautiful. So if you could go back in time and kind of talk to your younger self, what do you think are like a few life lessons you would want to pass along in terms of self-care?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I know. I think about this often, actually, going back and telling myself from the past. And first up, I would say stop justifying those foods, because that's all it is. Like I'd mentioned before, it's just a justification to release our own guilt. It's not going to make me feel better, maybe for 5 minutes while I get that initial euphoria of it, but it doesn't give me that fulfilling self-care that I get now. And I would probably go back also and say, trust the process. Trust the process, because it's not going to be apparent right away. Some changes you notice, like you do feel better, you feel lighter and stuff like that when you change your diet, but it's going to be a gradual change. And I would tell myself just to stick to it and be consistent, and not to focus so much on the food being the pleasure, but instead focus on enjoying life and the food being the fuel to enjoy your life. Because what I realized after going raw, I used to feel like going raw would be kind of like like it would suck. I'd miss out on stuff, FOMO kind of deal. Like I just, I will never have pizza again. But I can have whatever I want. I've freed myself from that label. I can eat whatever I want. But what do I truly want? I want to feel healthy, and I want a salad because I like legitimately enjoy eating my salads, and that's what I want. So I realized that back then I used food to enjoy my life without realizing that I didn't actually enjoy my life, because it was food that made me enjoy my life. Like I'd go out with friends, it was always about the food that was there. If I went to a wedding, yes, it was about the wedding, but it was like, oh, wow, free food or this buffet or whatever. Like it was always about the food. And I didn't actually really truly enjoy my life until I had to release that. And now I really enjoy it. So I would tell my old self, like, just take it one day at a time, because that's what I did do. Take it one day at a time and just focus on today. Focus on the things that make you feel good today, that are healthy. Just because it makes you feel good doesn't mean that it's a healthy thing. So that's probably what I would tell my old self: to take your time, trust the process, and just like work on releasing those old paradigms of self-care.
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of people could agree with you on that one. In terms of like how you've learned to acclimate this into your lifestyle, how has community been a part of your journey, and how have you used your new health to build community and use that towards community growth?
Community is so important when you change over your lifestyle, because it can be very lonely. It can be so lonely because we're going against what's normal. What's normal, according to like 97% of the population, they don't understand quite yet what you're doing, and it seems extreme to them. They might make fun, they might make jokes or bully you or get into debates or try to justify their opinions and stuff. And it can be really isolating, because you're constantly, you are a mirror to everyone else's choices. So when you eat a salad, that's a mirror to their choice. And say they're eating a plate of chicken wings with ranch dip, they see your salad and then they see their choice, and immediately they feel things are going on in their body. It has nothing to do with you or your salad. It's all within them. And they recognize that subconsciously, maybe consciously in some people, but that's when they start to poke fun at your salad or bully you or get into a debate or try to justify it, because they are uncomfortable. Whereas we're just eating our plants or whatever. we're not trying to make other people feel guilty. They feel guilty because they know their choice is not the most ideal. But when it comes to community, I noticed that in the beginning, it was lonely. I found a lot of solace online. I joined some Facebook groups and I started communicating with some of the people there, just listening to what the questions they had. If I had an answer from my own experience, I would share it with them. I became friends with a lot of the people in those groups, just internet friends. And eventually, there were some girls in my city who were part of that group as well. I had no idea, obviously. But they started reaching out and they said, hey, do you want to go to this raw restaurant and meet up and whatever? So it took about 3 years. I know that's a long time for some people, but it took a while before I found like my connections with new friends. And I'm grateful that I waited and just allowed the universe to bring who needed to be in my life at those times. But yeah, community definitely important. I always tell people, go to festivals if you can. I know right now it's a little iffy on the festivals, but if you're able to, and when we're able to go to festivals and meet people, because this can be like your once a year time where you actually get to physically connect with other people who believe the same things you do. It feels so comfortable. Like the first time I ever went to a festival was about 4 years ago, maybe more. 4.5 years ago, I went to the UK Fruit Fest. It was my very first fruit festival, and I went with my mom. And while I was there, like they always say, whenever you go to a vegan festival or whatever like that, your life has changed. And I was like, yeah, I could see that, but I didn't realize how impactful it would be for me to actually do it. So when I went, it was life changing. By the end, I was like crying and everything, because it feels like utopia when everybody around you believes the same things and they follow not exactly the same things, but we all have like no harm for animals, or treat your body with respect, that kind of thing. Like we're all there for the same reason, and there's no debates, there's no judgments, there's no make fun or say bacon or whatever. Like there's none of that that happens at these festivals. So you feel at home, you feel like it's heaven or Eden, and you just, the connections that you make there, like friends for life, really what happens there. So starting in the groups, going to meetups, going to festivals, and just connecting with others online has been a really big help for me in my journey. And I know it is for a lot of people. So it's so important to reach out. And on that note, so many people will tell me, they'll say, well, there's no vegans in my area, or there's no raw vegans in my area. And I'm like, I could guarantee you that they're looking for you just as much as you're looking for them. So somehow you guys have to connect, and without exposing yourself or reaching out in groups or meetups or whatever, no one will know that you're there looking for them. So we all have to reach out and try to find each other.
I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, I say the same thing to all my friends that are starting to go into this arena, that, the first thing that I would do is go online and try to find people in your area that do it also. It'll be so much easier for you. So in terms of environment and nature and, the great outdoors and bringing that into your self-care and into your health practice, what does that look like for you?
Well, since moving from Canada, I have increased a lot more hikes and more nature, just because the weather here is so much better. When I was in Canada, I was raw vegan in Canada for the first 5 years of my journey, where in the winter, where I was from, it would go down to like -40, -47 in the winter. And the winters were long. Like our growing season was only 111 days, so just over 3 months, and the rest of the time was cold and bleh. So I took as much time as I could to go on hikes. I really love hiking. I would say that's probably my favorite of all the nature things to do, because I can get a lot of view in. Biking too. Biking's really good. But I prefer hiking just because I can stop easier. And I love photography. That's a big, big, big part of my self-care, because I find so much fulfillment in taking photos. So combining the photography with a hike is like one of my favorite things to do out in nature. And then just like tanning, exploring, just being out in the sun, absorbing it all, and learning about the area too, like learning about wild herbs and plants that grow that are edible, and like the different mushrooms and berries and all those kinds of things that we can pick and eat because they're there. That's food for us. So learning about that is really fun form of self-care in a way, because I'm learning, but I'm also enjoying nature too. But I do really love the beach when we're able to go, just like relaxing, taking a nap. And Nate and I really like to go for road trips. We'll take our tents and we'll just tent around, drive around, tent around. We do it all as raw vegans. We have our technology that we like to take with us to allow us to do so. But I mean, we don't even need it because we can mash an avocado with some tomatoes, to make a dressing. We don't need the blender, but it's nice to have. So, but those are really good too. Hiking in the rocks with moss is one of my favorites. And just being in nature to enjoy all of that is, makes me want to go out. It's a little cloudy, but I'll probably go out anyway.
Well, if you're ever up in the Catskills, you can come visit. We definitely have plenty of moss-covered rocks.
Yes.
Um, so, how much of a priority do you think that your self-care practice is now, and how big of a role do you think it plays in your life as far as your ability to do good work and contribute positively to the world?
That's a tricky one for me right now because I feel like I'm constantly working on improving my self-care because I do put so much into my work that I forget about some stuff, right? It'll be like go too long before I stand up, for example. Like I'll just work for like 4 or 5 hours and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to stand up and move around or whatever, right? And so I'm constantly working on that. But I feel like because my work is so fulfilling, that I don't feel like it's a huge stress. I do need to take more breaks. And I have actually been working on following a new kind of routine where I set my phone alarm. I learned this from, I think his name was Eugene Schwartz. He's like one of the best copywriters of the world. And he does this, he sets his alarm for 33 minutes and 33 seconds and then he just focus works for that time. And then when his alarm goes, he gets up and moves around. He goes in the kitchen, he does some laundry, whatever, right? He just gets up and moves around. And then after about 10 minutes of that, he sits down and does another 33 minutes and 33 seconds. And I find that to be a really good way of cutting up my workday and actually getting those self-care things in. Another form of self-care that is part of my life already is food prep. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's so much work. I have to chop all these vegetables and blah, blah, blah. But it's, to me, it's my time. It's me time. I get to be in the kitchen and I just get to like, sometimes it takes a couple breaths. I can get into the zone of this is prep time. This is me time. I get to meditate. I can listen to a podcast. I can go over my affirmations. I can listen to some music or something. And I just really get in connection with the food that I'm preparing for myself. And switching that mindset has really helped to break up the day as well, because I can take that time to practice that self-care when it comes to making food, because we make food all day, right? So taking that time is kind of like, I wouldn't say a forced form of self-care, but if you are aware and you go into it with the intention of having it a form of self-care, it feels so freeing. It feels like a break from the day. So those would be things. And going to bed early is so important to me. I don't always do it, but going to bed early and waking up early is by far, those are my favorite days. Even though it's hard to in the beginning to get into that routine, but when I'm in that routine, it's my favorite days ever. I just feel so rested and I feel like I did good by my body and my body's thanking me with the improved energy and all of that stuff. So that's definitely something that I feel is part of my self-care routine that I love.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Once you get used to going to sleep earlier and waking up earlier, it definitely feels amazing. So yeah, that kind of goes into my next question. But do you have any other routines or activities that you enjoy doing that you might recommend for someone else to try?
Yeah, I actually just in the last couple of months, I've really gotten into like a face care routine where I do like a scrub, I have a facial steam, I do a mask, and I feel like that is such a nice way to end the day because I can listen to soothing music while I'm doing that. The smells are wonderful, and I'm doing something self-caring for me. And that's a routine that I absolutely love, something that is really dear to me. Let's see else. My friend and I, when I moved down here last year, I got a new friend. Her name's Erin, and we go for monthly skincare facials. So we have this monthly thing. It's kind of like a girls' day, and we just go, we have our facial, we go for raw food, we go do a little shopping. And that's just like our time to spend, and I booked the day off, so it's just us, and it's really nice to have that form of self-care. She's a vegan too, so we have a lot in common, and it's just nice to have somebody who understands. But that's a routine that I love. Even though it's monthly, it's still something that I look forward to. And yeah, the morning routine, I would have to say that's probably my most favorite when I'm doing that morning routine. So I wake up at 5 a.m. and then I set my alarm on my phone for 10 minutes. And for those 10 minutes, I meditate. And then when the alarm goes off, I push snooze, because snooze is 9 minutes. So for the next 9 minutes, I work on my affirmations, and I just reread my affirmations. I add new ones. And then when the alarm goes off, I push snooze. And then those next 9 minutes, I work on gratitude. So I'll add 5 new things that I'm grateful for that were not on the list. And I'll go over the things that I have already written in my list. The alarm goes off, I push the button again for snooze. And the next 9 minutes are visualization. So I visualize my life and where I want to go and my goals and what I need to do for the day. I visualize that. Then the alarm goes off, I push snooze again, and then I read for 9 minutes. And I read like self-empowering books, something that'll motivate me for the day. So I have a couple books that I'm reading. I don't do Audible in the morning for this. I like to hold the book. Then the alarm goes off and I push snooze, and then I practice either stretching or headstands or something like that. And then the alarm goes off and then I end it. So that's about an hour. And during that hour, I'm drinking my morning water. And it's like, when I do those days, I feel so empowered. And it's like, why don't I do this every day? But those are the days. And when it's consistent, it's like your life just takes another, like you're in a different parallel universe when you do that every day. But that's my favorite morning routine.
That sounds absolutely incredible. It's like the most powerful morning routine I've ever heard. That's like beats some Tony Robbins stuff that I've heard.
Just use the snooze on your phone. It's like the best.
It's amazing. So that, yeah, really incredible stuff. Is there like one thing above all else that you would suggest for someone to give a shot at home when they're new to this world and trying to start their own self-care practice?
I would say, out of everything, it would be get your mindset right. Get the mindset right around self-care, that it's not an inconvenience. You're not getting in the way of anyone else, and schedule it in. Because like when we have schedule, like for example, our meeting right here, we're both here at 10 a.m. to have this meeting together. We keep the promise to each other to be here to do this because we said we would, right? So if we make promises to ourselves, why don't we treat them the same way? Why don't we actually meet up with ourselves at 5 a.m. to do these things? And yes, some people need an accountability partner, and that's cool, right? Doing it with somebody actually helps you to get there and do it. But we really need to work on keeping the promises to ourselves, right? We're just not doing that. So I feel like in order to implement any self-care practice, you have to schedule it in, and you have to put yourself first, and you have to meet up with yourself and get it done. Because the only way to create those routines is to actually do them, right? And the only way it becomes habit is if you do it consistently. So you have to meet up with yourself in the beginning. It's so hard because we've got Netflix and we have our friends and family and we've got the internet. We've got so many distractions that it's like, well, I'll do it tomorrow. The problem with I'll do it tomorrow is a dopamine hit. Because as soon as we say I'll do it tomorrow, all of a sudden we're like, like you release the obligation to have to do it. But we don't realize that by doing the thing that we want to do, our life is going to improve even more. It's just in that moment, it feels uncomfortable. It's like, I don't really want to do my face care routine. I don't really want to wake up at 5 a.m. I don't really want to go to bed early. But if we do those things and just give it a try for 90 days, just try it and see how your life changes. But again, schedule it in, get it in, and meet up with yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful, love it. Thank you so much, Alyssa. Is there any upcoming work coming out soon that you want to tell our audience about?
Woo! Oh my gosh, I've got like so much on the go. It's crazy. But yes, I am currently working on the Burger Book, which is a raw vegan burger book full of recipes. I've got about 120 recipes that are going to be in there. My husband, Nate, he is working on a book too. His is going to be a meal plan, and we've got some interesting stuff coming up in April, which is hush hush right now, but April is going to be a fun month full of releases. I'm also still working on my e-course. I have Lissa's Raw Immersion, where you can be raw like me for a month. So that's currently being edited and worked on and stuff. But otherwise, I try to post a minimum of 3 times a day on my Instagram, inspirational stuff, mindset shifts and tricks and stuff. So Instagram at Raw Food Romance. YouTube, oh, that's another project. I'm doing a video a day for the entire year of 2021. So if anyone wants to watch those videos, they will be on YouTube. Right now, we're in the process of doing a 30-day how to start a raw vegan diet, and we're on day 20 today. So that was released this morning. And yeah, it's 30 videos on how to start a raw diet or how to include more raw foods in your life, and just a lot of work. So the self-care is definitely necessary in these days for me, but those are what's coming up.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. How many ebooks do you have available now?
Oh. I have 6 ebooks
Okay.
currently. No, 7. I have 7. I have the 52 to a New You, which was my very first ebook, just kind of like a short transition guide on how to go raw. I've got Meal Plan Volume 1, which was my first big ebook release. It's 30 days with 90 recipes. Then there was Dips and Dressings, which is a collection of all my favorite dips and dressings for raw food. And you could even add them with cooked foods, that they're just so good. Then I came out with Meal Plan Volume 2 and then Meal Plan Volume 3. So I've got 3 meal plans. They all have different recipes. They're all 30 days, 90 recipes each. Meal Plan 3 is really good for beginners because there's no dehydrator and there's no tree nuts. So those who have nut allergies, Meal Plan 3 is a really good option. And then we just released, in August, we released the Nice Cream book. So it's actually my husband's book. I photographed it and designed it. He came up with all the recipes, and it's 106, I think, recipes of nice cream and drizzles and toppings to put on top. So that was our last one. I just have so many ideas. I just can't contain them all.
That's what happens when you're healthy.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's beautiful. So did you have a gift available for our audience today?
Yes, actually, you guys can receive the 52 to a New You. That's my very first book, and that is available to you as a gift.
Wonderful. Thank you. So thank you again. This is Lissa Marris with Raw Food Romance. It was truly a pleasure speaking with you. I'm Sam Kavaliev, wishing you health and harmony. Have a wonderful day.